Hello and welcome back to Techshow. Now, on this episode, we have Solomon Wesley Sua. And if you have been watching from our previous episode, we had Solomon talking about how technology can help the government to become a rich nation. And we talked about IT. So for today, I'll just leave it to Solomon to talk about operational technology. But first of all, can you just differentiate between the both of them, IT and OT?
Thank you, and thank you once again for being back on the show. IT is basically, there's a system there, there's a computer system there that you can store information, retrieve information, and send information. So that is basically IT. OT is also involves software and hardware, but this time you can use that technology to control and manipulate another physical system that is running in an infrastructure like power generation facility or water treatment facility.
Okay, so give us an example of a company in PNG or an organization that has operational technology being used.
There are many, all our SOEs, they use operational technology. For instance, I can get one, two or three. First one is airports that we normally see. National Airports Corporation, they have about 7 operational technologies operating at the back end, operating those airports. So like one of them is the luggage handling system. One of them is the flight display system. All of that is what we call operational technology, and they're using that one. And then another one would be PNG Power. They have one in Kokopo, they have one in the Port Moresby, which up in the mountains of Koyari and all that. They have an operational technology system which they call SCADA. SCADA is basically a supervisory data acquisition system which they use to control how the valves are operating, when to shut down and all that. So there's a bit of a thing going on there, and that is operational. And of course, Edarano would be another one. They have a water treatment facility, and there is a operational technology which SCADA also they use to manipulate systems and control systems on real time. So they're managing the whole infrastructure, and they call them government's critical infrastructures.
So coming back to our topic that we want to discuss on how operational technology will help the country to become a rich nation. According to the Prime Minister and his new cabinet, they would want us to become the rich nation. So how will operational technology help the government to prosper in technology?
Yes, that's a very critical one, because the critical when a government like our government that comes out and a prime minister makes a bold statement that they want to make Papua New Guinea the richest black Christian nation on earth, that alone triggers a lot of events. One of them is that might not sound good to our foes, and we are foes and friends. So one of the things that we must do now that the government has declared, and this to me is like it's like a war cry that somebody want to defend and somebody want to take back something. So that means economic wise, like electricity, we must protect our power generation facilities, because in a power generation facilities, they call it the electricity value chain. That starts from the power generation and then to power transmission. That's where we see the power lines carrying that power. And then distribution is where we see our ECP systems. And then the consumer, of course, that's the user at the end. So that value chain must be protected, because when a cyber attack on that particular infrastructure, and when we have a power outage, you think of this, our IRS billings, there won't be any power, there won't be any water, there won't be any aeroplanes moving in and out, there won't be any, you name it, and that place will be like no water to flush the toilet, and health hazards and all these things. It's a very, very critical thing that when the government makes such bold statements, the first thing is that we must protect those critical infrastructures.
Now, thank you so much. Now, before we go, since time is catching up with us, from your own personal view, like how would the government try to use this to go forward?
The challenge for the government is, of course, it will be cost, because the OT system, there was a time in history where nobody ever thought that one day we would have for instance, our engineers in PNG Power Headquarters in Hohola would sit in their office and monitor something somewhere in Kokopo, somewhere in Hagen, somewhere in Ramu. They never thought that. They thought that those systems would like work on their own. So now that we put them together, that's where the problem is. So the government has a challenge there, that they must protect this. So back to us as a cybersecurity company, we have the solution for the country. And we talking to the agencies that are involved in that we have the solution that as a local company, our security is there not to be compromised. So we as a local company, we have the country in our heart, and we have the solution that we believe that would protect our critical infrastructures. And then the underlying economic framework, the platform will be there. So on top of that, we run our economic activities. We run our SMEs, business transactions, all this operation is going on. And somebody is doing the dirty stuff, and that's the underlying OT guy is doing the dirty stuff. So we have to protect our electricity grids and our airport systems and our water treatment facilities, because the water treatment facilities are very dangerous, because a cyber take in there and they can manipulate the chlorine level, and imagine the whole city is like poisoned. These things like this are happening. So when the government puts something like this, the government must protect these critical infrastructures.
Okay, thank you so much, Solomon. So for the next time when you come on the show, we will be talking about how technology will increase the country's revenue. Is that right?
Yes. So we look at both the OT and IT, and we see how technology can contribute to the government's, especially the economic activities and the GDP. Because when you compare countries with us and say that who is the richest black country right now, the richest black country would have his GDP 400-500 times higher of us. So we have a good catch up to do. So that's why we want to talk about how the technology, OT and IT can help boost the government's GDP.
Okay, thank you.